It's always been the case that there's no definition of wealth. There's no objective definition of wealth. The only definition that makes sense to people is relative to other people. And so it doesn't matter how much money that I have. All that matters is that I have more than you. That's always been the case. It is 100 times more potent now because of social media. So what I just said was true 100 years ago. It's true 1,000 years ago. You judge yourself relative to other people. But your comparison group now that you're comparing yourself to is a curated, algorithmic, highlighted reel of the top 1% of moments of the top 1% of people's lives globally. And so it's created this idea, look, as an iron rule of math, half the population has to be below the median. That's just how it works. Half the population has to be below average. And when everybody, though, is being almost force-fed the top 1% of moments of the top 1% of people's lives, you create the situation where a lot of people are living good lives by any historical standard. Yep. But we've created a world where I think most people expect what is effectively a top 1% outcome. And you see this a lot with college students, where a lot of people think that the baseline norm of what they want in life is a bachelor's degree from a flagship university, a corporate job that pays low six figures to begin with, great health insurance, great retirement, a 3,000 square foot house with 2 SUVs. That's become their baseline norm of like, that's just what I expect. On one hand, I want to live in a world that has rising expectations. That's what progress is. I want to live in a world where my grandkids live in a world where cancer is cured and they don't even think about it. That's the dream. Rising expectations is progress. That's what it is. But you also have to expect and understand that in that world, that growth individually and as a whole society is never going to feel like you think it would be, because it just becomes the norm that you expect. I think for a lot of people, what they really like with money is not even being rich. It's the process of becoming rich. Even if you're so there's a hedge fund called Renaissance Technologies. It's the most successful hedge fund that's ever exist. It's not open to outside investors. It's pretty much only employees get to invest in it. And it is in a universe of its own. Going back like 30 years, are 66%. Just did a complete, which if you don't know anything about finance, that is like Michael Jordan times 50. It's a different universe. And, but look, when you've earned 66% every year, and if you earn it next year, like you got richer, but you're like, yeah, that's just what this does. Where you are absolutely tippity top for a moment, but it's going to end. And yes, you can have book deals and speaking deals and have a good fortune, but you know there's going to come a specific day where nobody cares about it. The more you are snubbed while poor, the more you enjoy displaying being rich. And I was like, it's almost like you don't even need to read the article. Like that's it. It's so astute and I think so true that for a lot of people, not everybody, but for a lot of people, the more you are showing off or you just desire to show off, a lot of it is a wound that was inflicted upon you. And you're like, I'm going to get back. And sometimes too, you're not even showing off for other people. You're doing it you're doing it to prove to yourself, to signal to yourself that I did it. I remember talking to Anthony Scaramucci about this. And he said that he grew up, in one social class where the ultimate signal that you made it to yourself, that you overcame where you became, was the Lamborghini. That was it. And so he said, he was like, I don't want it for other people. I want to do it to show myself that kid who grew up down there made it up here. So it's a signaling and a story either way. And that's why it's not judging. But it's an interesting window into who you are. A lot of people who grew up very wealthy, they have a very interesting financial psychology as well. They understand, I think, very acutely what money cannot do for you. So a lot of them, if you talk to them, would be like, yeah, we grew up very rich and we had all these homes and all these cars, but pick whatever story you want. My parents didn't get along. My parents got divorced. My dad didn't have any relationship with me. I was bullied at school. Like they're very acute. They're acutely aware that money can solve a lot of problems and build an amazing life for you, of course. But I think when you're poor, it's easy to tell yourself, that's the solution to all my problems. That if only I had that much money, then this hole I have in my soul would go away and it'd fill up and everything would be done. And the people who grew up rich know that that's not true. If you have a big house so you can have 20 of your best buddies over every Friday night and have a great time, yes. If you have a big house because that's what you need for you and your spouse to have 5 kids and that's your meaning and purpose in life, yes, absolutely. But I think if you're using it as a way of just like because that's what you should want, then it can be pretty miserable. Very interesting. Harvey Firestone, who created Firestone tires, he was alive 120 years ago or some odds. He wrote a biography in the 1920s. And he pointed this out. He said, every wealthy person that he knows, without exception, buys a gigantic house. And every single one of them, without exception, finds it to just be a tremendous burden. And he even said Henry Ford, who at the time was like a cheap miser kind of, he was like, even Henry Ford has a gigantic house that he hates. But he's like, there has to be something in the human soul that just associates large property with success. And I think a lot of people who have a big house know this. Like, a big house is a tremendous amount of upkeep. And a lot of people who live in those giant homes will eventually basically seclude themselves to a small little corner of that house. Yeah. The only true material luxury is flying private. So Sam's advice, it's ambitious advice. He was like, get to private jet money. There are billionaires who have no control over their time, no control over their schedule, spend their entire day doing things that they don't want to do. And there are people who make $50,000 a year who are living their absolute best life and totally control their life, control where they live, where they work, who they spend their time with, doing the hobbies that they want to do. And so to me, that's really what wealth is.